In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a daily air test report for asbestos using the UK's HSG 248 standard. I'm talking about the second edition here, by the way. So this might be used in conjunction with something like a certificate for reoccupation report. You can create the daily air test reports separately and then import them to be embedded within the 4-stage clearance report. Alternatively, you might create this as just a standalone report on its own. This report template has some great features, including pooled sampling and also time-weighted average for personal air tests. So where do we begin? Well, first of all, I'll explain there's two parts to the software. There's the dashboard, which you can see here on the left, and there's the mobile app, which you can see here on the right. The two things work together in real time, so if you make changes in the office using the dashboard, they'll be instantly reflected on the mobile app. And vice versa, if anyone makes changes on the mobile app, then you'll see them in the office using the dashboard. For a daily air test report, like I'm about to show you, 90% of the work is done on the mobile app, but there is still the requirement to schedule up the job in the dashboard, which is what I'll show you here first. Now, a common question we get asked at this point in the demo is, does the app work offline? And the answer is yes. You shouldn't notice any difference whether you're working online or offline. The experience should be the same. The moment you get an internet connection, the mobile app will automatically sync up the data to the office and you'll see it in the dashboard. So before you go to site to carry out the site work, the first thing you'll need to do is to schedule up the job. This is where your report will live. The usual process to schedule jobs is using the dashboard, which you can see here on the left. That's how I'm going to do it shortly. Alternatively, you can create what's called a draft job on the mobile app. If that's your preference, then you tap this button here. And that can be helpful if you get a job on the fly. So let's go ahead and schedule this job using the dashboard. The first thing to do is to tap the Create Job button. If you're working for an existing client, just type the name and select them from the drop down, like so. Alternatively, if it's a new client, you can just type the name and you'll be prompted to create one here. Now the project you can think of as your internal job ID. So for example, I might have Acme 1 here. Next is the address. So this is where you're going to be doing the work. I'm going to paste one in from my clipboard and you can see here it's used its best guess to figure out where this is. I can also zoom into this map and actually pinpoint this location. So maybe this isn't 100% correct. I can sort of drag this up to the front of the building. The reason I do this, by the way, is this map will get shown on the reports and it'll also get used for directions on the mobile app. Most people don't use UPRNs, it's unique property reference number. I'm going to skip over that. Next is the pipeline. So you can think of this as the type of work that you're doing. We would have created a pipeline for perhaps a 4-stage clearance or DCU clearance, or you can have a standalone daily air test pipeline. It's up to you. I'm going to select the daily air tests pipeline that I've got here. This is going to dictate the stages that the job must go through before it's considered complete. If you want to tag the job to make it easily findable later on, you can do that here. So I can create tags for anything. I've created a commercial tag here. It's up to you what you use, but this is going to make it easy to find the job using the search later on. Now we can put in the value if appropriate, and also some private notes for our team on site, for the analysts if we want to. So we could say something like building available from 2 p.m. or something like that. Now we can schedule this up in various different ways. The very simplest is just to put in the date, like so. You also have the option to put in the start time and also the end date and time if this is a multi-day job. I'm going to keep it simple and just use the date. Next, we need to assign this to the users who are going to be doing the work. So I'm going to assign this to myself and I'll assign this to David as well. You can only see jobs on the mobile app that have been assigned to you, so it is important not to skip this step. Next is the due date. So if we said the job was today, the due date could also be today as well. And this is when you expect to get the report to your client. Now keep an eye on the mobile app. As soon as I click save, this will instantly sync. And you can see there it's synced to the app. We didn't have to press a sync button or anything like that. Now we have one of two options. We can either add the report in the office using the dashboard, or we can do it on site using the mobile app. I'm going to add the report in the dashboard by tapping this button here. Now I'm going to select the relevant template, in this case daily air test, and you can see we're presented with various sections that we need to run through before the report is complete. So let's start with the work details. This is really straightforward. It's just some information about the contractor and the work itself. So I'm going to put in the name of the contractor. If I want to put some information about the work details, I could do that here too. And click Save. You can see the sections checked off, showing that it's been completed. Next is the air test equipment. So if we click on this section, you can see we're prompted as to what equipment we've been using. I'm not going to fill this in right now because I'm going to come back to a more complete example towards the end. But I just want to point out that the graticule diameter and the exposed filter diameter will both get used in the calculations in the daily air test report. So let's imagine we filled this in and click Save. Now the next section, the air monitoring samples, is something we're going to want to do on site using the mobile app. So everything we've done so far has been on the dashboard. For collecting the analytical data on site, we're going to need the mobile app. The mobile app works on iOS and Android devices on both phones and tablets. We've tried to make it as simple to use as possible. So now that we've scheduled up the job and created our daily air test report, let's skip over to the mobile app and start collecting some analytical data on site. The first thing your analysts will want to do is to open up the job by tapping it here. Now they can press the View Job Notes button, which will open up those private notes that we save for ourselves in the office. The next thing they'll want to do is to update the pipeline stages. As they go through the job, you can update pipeline stages to show anyone in the office and also yourself, when you're back in the office, exactly what stage things are up to. Now I've created a very simple pipeline with just 3 stages. We've got site work, QC and issued. However, your process might be different to this, in which case we can also customize these stages to suit your business. If you are doing a 4-stage clearance report, otherwise known as a certificate for reoccupation, then the pipeline stages would mirror the stages you had to go through on that job type. So let's start by marking off the site work as work in progress. That's this orange status. And you'll notice that real-time data sync working in reverse. As soon as we change this stage here, it also changed on the dashboard side. So anyone following along in the office could see that you'd started the work at this point. Now, if you're using the app for navigation to site, you could press the Get Directions button. If you are on an Android device, this would open up Google Maps. If you are on an iOS device, this will open up Apple Maps. Alternatively, if you're using something like Waze for navigation, you can tap Copy Address and then paste it into that navigation app. Next, you'll want to drill into the report. So let's open this up. And we can check the work details. We know who the contractor is. This might have additional information about the job, of course. Next is the air test equipment. So we can see which air test equipment we're using. Obviously, I haven't filled this in yet. I'm going to go to a more complete example shortly. But this would be something you'd want to check. Next is the air monitoring sample section. And this is where analysts are going to spend most of their time on site. So if I add an item, you can see I'm prompted for various different things. The first is the test type. So if we're doing personal air monitoring, we could select this one. You'll notice as well that we have the option for a 4-hour time weighted average here. If we were doing a blank sample, then we could do it this way. And for static tests, you can see we have various options for things like clearance indicators, background, leaks, reassurance air testing, near source air testing, and far source perimeter air testing. Scrolling ahead, you can see we have information that gets captured about the sample ID, pump number, start time, and so on. We also capture the flow rate, and you can see here we've got options for the initial and final flow. This gets used to calculate the mean flow throughout the test that you're doing, and whether it's uncountable. If you tick uncountable, you have to put a reason in as to why it's uncountable. Next, we've got the fibers, the fields, and the number of rejected fields. So rather than fill all of this in myself, I'm going to skip to a more detailed example where I've already put some data in, and we can actually have a look at the report and see how that's looking. There is one final thing I'd like to do before that though, which is just to mention that there's also a site log. If you did want to log the times of the things that you were doing, this will form a sort of consecutive site log of all those activities together on the report. I'm not going to do that now, but just wanted to make you aware that that's available. So let's jump over to a more detailed example where I can start showing you how the report is taking shape. So to speed up this demonstration, I've gone ahead and created a pre-filled report with lots of data in it. Your analysts would actually need to fill in this information themselves, of course, but I've just done this to speed things up a little bit. So I'm going to show you, we now have 10 samples here in the air monitoring sample section. If I scroll to the right here, we can see we have a combination of different pools, different test types, and so on. So this is looking pretty complete at this point. Now let's take a look at the report and see how the report is looking. Now before sending your final PDF report to your client, you'll want to check everything over. We have a live report preview which serves this purpose. The preview will also show any errors that need resolving. For example, if I was missing some information about the graticule diameter or something like that, the report would tell me, and it would say that it couldn't calculate the results because of that missing information. So the report preview always keeps you right. So to view that report preview, first of all we'll want to select a layout from the drop down, like so, and we'll tap View Report. So this top section here will show some information about the job, the client, and so on. Next we have some information about the equipment that's been used, so the graticule diameter and the effective filter diameter. Everything here can be fully customized too, so if you want something different, just let us know and we can easily customize the layout and template to suit. Now we haven't signed this report off yet. If we had, we would have some signature here, but if I scroll ahead, you can see these are our results. So the first thing you'll notice is the top section is showing us some information about the equipment. Underneath we've got a breakdown of all the samples and the overall result. Now as mentioned before, this template uses pooled sampling. So the way that pooled sampling works is that if individual sample records share the same pool ID, then they will be pooled together as so. So you can see here we have this pool which is called example 1, and it consists of these 5 samples, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 and 1.5. The overall result of the pooled sampling will be shown here on the right hand side. Now the overall result in fibres per milliliter is made up of looking at both the LOQ, the limit of quantification, and also the actual. So it looks at both of those and then gives you an overall result. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I've just added a bunch of reassurance tests and then also this near source one at the bottom. But you could add additional test types, for example as personal air monitoring results as well, and this would just keep growing as you added more of those. Now if this air test report is being created for a background, reassurance, leak or personal test reason, then they'll need to go to the lab first, in which case you would issue the report using the dashboard as I'm showing you here now. On the other hand, if this was part of a 4-stage clearance, it may be that you actually issue the report here and now using this method here. So you can actually select the layout from the app itself, view it, and then that forms part of the report itself. So you can do it one of two ways. Like I say, you can do this in the office as I've done here on the left hand side, or you can actually view and download the report from the app on the right hand side. So to create the final report, all you do here is to press this download PDF button. So you can see here we've actually got the PDF which has been created. I'm going to open this up, and this is essentially what you're going to send to your client. So you can see here we've now got the footers, we've got the page numbers here in the bottom, also we've got the headers. We haven't actually signed this off yet, so we're going to sign off in a second, and you can see each footer will also have the job ID and the page number. So let's actually go ahead and add that signature. This would be part of our QC process, of course. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to say that it was myself who signed this off. Pop in the time, and I'm going to leave the signature blank for now. So I'm going to click Save, head back over to the report, and you can see here we've now signed this off at 14:43. So now this report has been completed. I'm going to go ahead and mark off some more of those pipeline stages as done. We've done the site work, we've QC'd the report, and we've also issued it. So that's that job finished. Now I'm going to head back up to the dashboard and I'm going to talk about some of the back office features. So this jobs list by default shows all of the jobs you've currently got on the go. In other words, one or more of these pipeline stages is incomplete. Once a job's been fully complete, like the one we've been working on today, you'll see it goes into the completed jobs. There's the one we've been creating today for the daily air test. The default view is this incomplete jobs because that's what you're likely to care about on a day-to-day basis. So we can drill into this list in lots of different ways. Now I don't have a lot of daily air test reports, so I'm going to show you if I select asbestos surveys, which I know I do have a lot of. You can see we've got various jobs here and they've all been expanded out to show the different pipeline stages, as you can see. Now we can filter this further and say show me all the jobs awaiting site work, in other words where the first stage hasn't been completed. If I say awaiting issued, the first 4 stages have been completed and the last one hasn't. So if you were doing a day of issuing reports, for example, you could select this filter, work your way through these jobs and mark off that last stage as complete as you go. Now you can search this job list in lots of ways. You can type an existing client, for example, and search this job list like so. It's very powerful and you're going to be using this a lot to find jobs that you're interested in. Now I've just scratched the surface of our product today just to give you this demonstration, but I hope you have now a good understanding of how you can create a daily air test report using Flow Mobile Surveying, and also how this could be incorporated into something larger, for example a certificate for occupation report or a DCU clearance report. If you're a Flow Mobile Surveying user, I hope this has been helpful. If you're not a Flow Mobile Surveying user and you're interested in creating these types of reports for your business, then please get in touch for a demo. We'd love to show you more and find out exactly what you're looking for. I hope you've enjoyed this demo. I'll see you soon. All the best. Bye bye.